marriages. I'm Jonathan Fisher, and this is Haleigh Fisher, my wife. And today we'd like to come and talk to you guys about looking for the need in your relationships or your marriage. So what do we mean by that? This is one of the basic building blocks that is included in every healthy relationship, is looking for the need. We're talking about physical needs, spiritual needs, emotional needs, as well as mental needs. So what are the needs of your family, so your children, but also of your spouse? What are their needs? And are you making space for those needs in your relationships?
Yeah, another way I like to ask this question is, when I pose it to individuals, is like, what makes you flourish? So what, do you feel like you need physically, spiritually, emotionally, mentally in order to feel like your best self or that you're flourishing? So I think that's another great way to think about it when you're thinking about the need and like how to love each other and to grow closer to each other is, what does that person need? And that might not be something necessarily that it's like, oh, I see like nobody's done the dishes today and we need to do that. But it's more of needs that each individual person has that helps them to be the best person, to feel connected, not only to each other, but also to the Lord.
So my need, if you will, would be, I'm going to say, an emotional need. So as a male, I need to be affirmed. And now that's not all males, right? But for me as a male, I really love feeling affirmed. That fills me up. And so Haleigh finds ways to fill that need. Now, and she knows that need. She is aware of that need. It's not something that isn't hidden, if you will. And so I've voiced that, and she does that for me. She finds ways every day to emotionally fill that need by affirming me. One of the things that's important here is also talking about spiritual needs. I am the leader, I'm the spiritual leader of my household, of our household, and I need to, regardless of if my wife or my kids feel like they need to be filled spiritually, I know that that's the healthiest thing for them. And so as a leader, as a spiritual leader, I need to fill them by providing that, whatever that looks like: prayer time at night, Bible study, encouragement with scripture, during the day with a text or something like that. But that is something I know they need. They might not feel they need it, but I know that that's the healthiest thing for them. And so I would provide that in some way.
And then like for me, like physical needs, like I'm really active. I've been active since I was young, and so exercising almost every day, or if not daily, is something that just makes me feel really normal. I think as a kid I struggled a lot with anxiety, and so that I think that was a big way of dealing with it, but also just a way that I feel really connected with God and with myself. And so like in our marriage we've learned to make time for that. And so sometimes that means like, okay, well, I'm gonna go out on a run while Jonathan stays home and does something else, and that's totally okay, while at the same time knowing that even though that is something that helps me to feel good and helps them, that I really enjoy, that that need is also something that if I don't have, that God can also fill that space. And I think that's important when we also talk about needs, is like these, in an ideal world we want all of these things, but sometimes they don't happen, and that our hope is not in them happening, whether that's being affirmed or me getting to run, but and that God fills all those spaces, and that those are just graces that God has given us that help us to feel good and to feel like He's uniquely wired us to be, but they're not something we absolutely need. They're just more things probably that we want and we desire and that help us feel whole, but that we can be whole without them as well.
That's an excellent point. So this is one of the basic building blocks to a healthy marriage or a healthy relationship, is looking at those needs. What are those needs? What are the needs of my spouse? And again, like Haleigh said, it's more about the desires, what fills you, what fills the other person. Something else that I was thinking about is sometimes Haleigh will like to take the dog and they'll go for a run, and I'll go along with them. Or sometimes as Haleigh's running, what I'll do is she runs a lot farther than me that I can, right? And so she'll go for a run and I'll go the first mile. And that's also fitting the need of connection. And so that's a way we connect, but I know that that's something that she's going to continue and I get to go home. And so little things like that help fill the emotional need and the physical need all at the same time. So get creative with these things. You can mix and match them if you want and try to do all of them at the same time. And that's how it gets really exciting. This is what an exciting, healthy marriage feels like and looks like, is whenever you guys are doing those things together and figuring out how to do those things well for each other. One of the scripture verses that comes to mind is outdoing one another in honor, or in showing honor. And this is a great way to show that memory verse, or to practice that memory verse in your marriages and in your relationships.
Yeah, I think, so when we're talking about a practical way to put this into action, I think just getting out a piece of paper, you and your spouse, and you having some time alone to make a list in those categories. Like ideally, like you think about your life and you think about when you feel like you were functioning best, like what was happening physically, what were you maybe active doing, or like how were you eating, or physical, how were you sleeping, is so many things. And then just trying to write that out, writing it out spiritually, what helps you to feel most full spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and sharing those lists, and also being able to keep each other in check about what's maybe realistic and what's not realistic in some ways, and knowing that they change, they ebb and flow with life and seasons. But I think that's a very practical way of just setting it out so that you guys can hold each other accountable. You can encourage each other. You can also see if maybe, something is interrupting, like one of those things, like I like to go to bed early. And so we had to make a compromise in our marriage about like, okay, maybe going to bed a little bit earlier than Jonathan would like to, or that's natural to him, and me going to bed a little bit later, but so that we can both kind of have that space that we need. And so I think that's also a great place with those lists to be able to see like maybe what is in your marriage or in your life that's not serving you, that doesn't need to be there, that you could replace with something that actually serves you and helps you to flourish, to live out God's plan.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you guys for joining us for another episode. So if you guys like this, share the videos if you think this could be helpful for your friends, family. Also subscribe, click the little notification if you'd like to be notified. We send these videos out. We try to do one a week and put them out on Fridays. And so I hope you guys enjoyed this, and we'll see you next time for Intentional Relationships.